Chapter 21 The Funeral of the Son of Lidovo. Sir, you need to have a funeral for your dead father. I do not care how much you did not like him. You still need to have one. I will give you until tomorrow, and if you still have not held it, I will need to consider how bad the afterlife paperwork would be. Morris, the death guide, allegedly. Sydney. Pendant son nobiacha, or the young Duchess nobiacha, I should say, was definitely a noble woman. She had the skirts of a peasant girl. Her robe was an intricately embroidered dark blue, even with the damage it had sustained, and without the mantle worn by the Lucian noblewoman, it was still recognizable. No peasant would have been able to afford that. Even a rich merchant would have had trouble with it. Her accent sounded a bit like the draconic country or southern accent, cutting off rough sounds and K sounds in K clusters and the T between two vowels, as well as using a different plural U. But she reduced her vowels less, as a noble would, and avoided using the names of spirits as interjections, and spoke in that higher way that nobles did. Adding on to that, I thought I had heard somewhere that Nobiacha was the name of the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Grassola, from which she hailed, and a poetin and ruler, even if she had technically not inherited a duchy yet, not locked away in a castle where she could not cause any trouble, was more than enough reason to warrant the Sinisen army chasing after her. She seemed almost scared of me. I wondered why. That happened a lot, actually. It seemed to have a knack for unintentionally intimidating people. I pushed my tears down until I was sure everyone else was asleep, and then I cried softly until I fell asleep. I had nightmares that night. Nightmares had plagued me since I understood what the war meant. That Erebus was not my only older sibling, that Pod and Leo were not my only cousins, and was the little stones at the base of our tree-mount. There were nightmares of blood and iron and white copper and babies the size of seeds. Then Mama, Dada, and Erebus died, and she brought new nightmares about the fire. And then my home was burned. I tried desperately not to think of the stones, instead distracting myself with the silly story of the people on the leash-hall, and my temper shining with the griefs that I tried to push down. Now, I had seen my friend lose his soul right in front of me. I had seen his eyes go dull and his arms fall to his side. Of course, as a girl who wished to be a scholar, I wanted to take notes, but then the rest hit, and I knew that my friend was a husk, a body with no soul. I woke up sweating and gasping. I took a deep breath, composed myself, and got out of bed. Wharnka was missing. Pavokit was drunk, seemingly lost in thought. Luce was sleeping fitfully, muttering and whimpering, a white hair tangled in her face. This is why I braided my hair before bed. Anyway, I guess nightmares was the culprit. Also, I wondered if Auriel's display of shadow magic was visiting her as well. But also Nocza was knitting and eyeing me suspiciously, so trying to hide it. Aileen brought down breakfast, some sort of combination of bread and fish, a Wharnka behind her. Breakfast was quiet, with most of us thinking about Tol Apollo or Sol. I guessed. I am the funeral sequence, which reminded me that we should have a funeral. If we do not, Morris would get angry and make us go on a long, complicated, non-lethal, and unpleasant quest to atone for that. We need to hold a funeral, Wharnka said. I nodded. I was thinking of that too. Pavokit looked up. What happens if we do not? He sighed. A major but not deadly inconvenience. If you are wondering why it is not deadly, it is because more of us would have to do all the necessary paperwork to take us to the afterlife. Do we have the body? Wharnka asked. I shook my head. No, it wasn't dead when we left. She sighed. All right, we can make a catafalque. We gathered the candles, obtained a box and an old black sheet, and thrust in the darkest clothes we had. I got up on the Mitoni's funeral rite and copied it down. We wanted to provoke it also to conduct the funeral, but the former couldn't read, and the latter was incorporeal and couldn't read Arachnes. We used the candles and began the chants. Moro cratolitari paso, perché voci et irapili Iresiloi, pergetta il soi petis ores otis fosso, e pergetta la soa morili ne vivere. And footnote, the translation of that chant is, Great Morris, grant him rest, let eternal light shine upon him, let his deaths be fulfilled, and let his memory live on. This was the first of three chants, which could be followed by other songs. The sequence was very similar to Moria Sombre, and I found myself and heard Luce mixing up the words. And next was the sharing of the bread, which we had to do with Vixig bread because none of us knew how to make Arachne's bread. Perché talo chatera apiliris iloi moro, cod lodi gesatito irta, foto il vito di telo, lotari passo, pore secrato, pergeta locia di rapilis, resiloi moro, cod loti chiese atito pirta, foto vivito di Translation, the footnote, the translation of that is, let eternal light shine upon him, Morris, with those who have gone before until the end of time. Grant him rest, for you are great. Let eternal light shine upon him, Morris, for those who have gone before him until the end of time. May his soul and the souls of all the dead rest in peace, and may Morris peacefully guide them to what lies beyond, I said. Wharnka sang a Vixig funeral song, and then Luce and I sang Las La for Sonie. When the funeral was finished, we returned to Eileen's house. Luce started knitting mittens. Rocket started drawing, and Wharnka talked to him. I thought about the divided soul period. After the collapse of the Solite monarchy, due to Arshid's pirates killing the heir, supposedly by the request of Elsina, Sio, and Orkea, Sol entered a period of anarchy. Out of that was the Republic of Sol, which was much like current Sol, except as communism allowed. A communist party formed in the Republic and gained much support, eventually controlling most of the government, and then managing to give themselves absolute power. Sol was the boss of the Democratic People's Republic of Sol, commonly called West Sol. Now, not everyone in the country enjoyed this arrangement, mostly in OKC. They split off from West Sol and declared themselves the Solite Republic of OKC, or East Sol. East Sol was ruled by anger and fear for most of its life, and had a suitably aggressive flag and crest. The former was pointed, and both represented Sol eating communism and West Sol. The two Sols then began fighting each other while also refusing to acknowledge that the other existed, and there were many songs and books and plays about the non-existent neighbors that they were fighting. One such song was Rodados Bos Echasige, or My Father Disappeared, which made fun of how if you did so much as criticize the West Solite president's appearance, the secret police would quietly arrest you, imprison you in or around the Ada Islands, and then erase all records of your existence. Ironically, there was also the story of an East Solite man who suggested showering and was beaten to death by a mob. That was probably exaggerated, but West Solite stories probably were as well. I realized I'd been muttering this old train of thought to myself and moving my hands as if I'd been saying it aloud. Then I shrugged. I'd done it before. No, I'd never liked the way I always talked to myself because she thought it made me seem strange. To be fair, she was right, but I'd never really been able to stop, and frankly, I didn't care. All four of us were strange. Jean with his thousands of nicknames, Erebus with his art, Luce Lucius Auriel, and me, talking to myself and studying history and languages instead of cooking and sewing. Alright, Erebus was comparatively normal. I began to hum the song, and then sang it. My father disappeared last night, I do not know where he is. Perhaps he went to buy milk and simply never returned. Last night my father said taxes are a bit too high, and mother looked at him as if he had sworn. I'm sure he is alright, he simply got lost. No one has spoken of him since, I wonder why that is. What was that about? Provoked asked when I finished. It's Westerlate whose father disappeared. It's an Easterlite song making fun of how if you did so much as criticize the Westerlate's appearance, the secret police would arrest you and erase all records of your existence. In this case, it was saying taxes are a bit too high, so it's less absurd, but still, I explained. Oh. Soon after lunch, Aileen came down, holding a piece of paper and looking worried. What is it? Wharnka asked. Nothing good. A neighbor got it from the bartender, who said he got it from Elio, she said. I can't read it, so I don't know nothing else. Wharnka sighed. Has he returned? I'm not sure. I haven't seen him. She gave the note to me. Even before I read the long-winded list of names and titles and quick but legible cursive signature at the bottom, I recognized the annoyingly ornate copper plate, written as if the writer was boasting about how well he could write, how educated and rich and superior he was. There's only one person I know who wrote like that. One person who put that much effort into his writing. Someone who always carried around a veritable army of quills from almost every bird that could be found in Older, and treated them like his own children, and naming them and all. In his own words, the writer was the Honorable Lord Lucian, Bourdon, et Delsebin, Villevalil, Villevaros, Madolil, non Garalus on Luzeli Avroder, his second in line to the barony of Luzeli. And he was working with Auriel. Morilla, I said. Wharnka. What is it? I asked. Luce before Banosamia Nocza gathered around us. It's from an old rival of mine. It's the reason I know how to read, Messina said. He's working with Auriel and likely some others, and says that they will give us Sol's body back if we give them Pavokit and let Lucian play chess with me. No matter what we say, they will probably kill it. She laughed. He calls them loyal mercenaries. I thought two words that should never go together unless it's some variation of mercenaries aren't loyal. Oh, and it was the second M in commonly. He has made a final spelling error, so this entire letter now means nothing. I blinked. There are how many whats in commonly? She said, never mind. And then she frowned. Wait, he says we have possession of the aforementioned Vix's body. He's a person, not an object. N makes an N sound, Wharnka. How don't you know this? It's like you can't read or something. Sol said. I sighed. You know very well that I never paid attention to what Papa was saying. It was said that wanderers mostly spoke in sarcasm or poetry. Apparently that applied to both those who were back from the dead and those who'd become wanderers through dark magic. Anyway, you should do it, he said, now grinning. I said, Sol, you're supposed to tell us not to do it. He nodded. I did that the last time, and this happened. I did that the last time this happened, and did you listen to me? No, you didn't. I may be able to negotiate with them, Nocza said. Sina shook her head. No, he's too dangerous, young Duchess. Nocza stiffened. What did you just call me? Young Duchess, she said calmly. It is your title, isn't it? Nocza's breathing became fast. Yes, it is. Provoked blinked. Really, but with the accent, I thought... Nocza briefly broke through whatever it is she was feeling to glare at him, and he trailed off. Poetinan accents evolved from Draco's country and southern accents, she explained icily. Zina nodded. So you're the young Duchess? Nocza fidgeted, her previous discomfort returning, and her ears flattened into her head. Yes, I am the Duchess of Gresola. Her accent was becoming heavier, almost to the point that she was hard to understand. Or I will be. I have not earned my title, so these reasons do not see much of a difference. How did you know? Well, the way you talk, for one, as well as your robe. No peasant would be able to afford blue that dark, and it would help explain why there was a price on your head, and a fairly large one at that. She adjusted her glasses. Lucian blinked and frowned. Zina continued. In addition to that, I once overheard a conversation about Poetina, and I believe they said that the daughter of the Duke and Duchess of Gresola was named Nobiocha. As the heir and spare to Luce will be much more likely to know the situations of Poetina city-states. I blinked and looked closer at Nocza's robe. Asina was correct, it was dark blue, which she had been partially concealing under a cloak. That's impressive, but you should stop this, I said. Asina ignored me. Since you're the Duchess, you can't come with us. They will surely alter the deal to include you as well, Asina said. Nocza sighed, still clearly upset. I was able to pass as a peasant girl for most of my journey, and I may be of some help. Asina shook her head, then frowned. Actually, they probably won't uphold their end of the deal anyway. Yes, I suppose you could come, but you'll need to cover your robe. So, what do we call you now? Young Duchess? Your Grace? Luce asked a little awkwardly. Nocza shook her head, her brown eyes wide. No, goodness no, just Nocza. Nocza borrowed one of Aileen's shawls, which looked like a blanket on her, and wrapped her sleeves around her arms tightly, securing them with pins. So, Nocza, would you like to join us officially? We came up with the name of the Twilight Consort because we're mostly musicians and we hope that will be the Twilight of the Emperor, I asked. Which has the added benefit of being our family's name, Mother Celestina said. Nocza laughed a little bitterly. Is that a question? Of course! They killed my family and practically and actually imprisoned me. So, what instruments do you play? I am a harpist. I smiled. Great! We play the flute, shawm, cramhorn, and gemshorn. A broken consort, then. Now, we should give you a code name. What do you think? How about Light? She was fidgeting. We could also go with Apple, since that is what my name means, but that seems a bit obvious. The Lepusian word for apple, Nobia, is also the name of a province. This could be opportunity for misdirection, Asina said. I do not want to risk it. I will just be Light. Great. Mine is Snow, Sol Storm, Pavokit is Flame, Asina is Owl, and Luce is Weaver, I said. Alright, then we should go. On the cliff, there were 6 people and Sol's body, 3 of whom I recognized. The first I did not know was a fairy holding a game board of some time, with copper elytra, curly hairs the same color, grey-green eyes, and fine white and gold clothes embroidered with moons. His hair had wider, neater curls, unlike Asin's wild mess of hair. The second was also a fairy with a light dress the same color and similar clothes, but with fancier embroidery, amber eyes, and neat, dark green hair that clearly wanted to curl. The third was a dragon wearing fine jewelry who looked a lot like Pavokit, with the same red and grey scales, but her eyes were yellow compared to his mismatched eyes. Pavokit frowned. Luce stood behind the scene, seemingly trying to make herself invisible. The ones I recognized were Auriel and a pair of Vixor with grey fur and brown eyes wearing triumphant smiles. Elio and Lilia. Their parents were Fixic nationalists, almost as bad as the Emperor when it came to that. Their children had once been more moderate versions of them, but had eventually developed the complete opposite opinions and became the only two people in Vix, well, besides the dirty traitor Skia, who supported the Sinisen occupation. They had been as vocal as their parents about their opinions and, much like their parents, bullied anyone who thought differently, which meant everyone. Sol and I had always defended their victims, since they had disappeared recently. The rumor was they'd gotten tired of saying only saying they supported the Emperor, and decided to put their words into action. As it turned out, that was true. Or maybe they just did it out of spite for us. Elio, I crossed my arms. So the rumors were true, I said with cold anger. You've betrayed us. Elio glared at me. You did that on your own. We don't have time for this, said the fairy with the board. He pointed at Asina. Asina ni, we will play chess. This must have been Lucian. Fast as lightning, Asina threw Cecily at him, her face calm but her eyes burning with anger. It hit his shoulder, nicking it and tearing a hole in his coat. Lucian looked at his damaged clothes and scratch. He glared at her, darted forward and grabbed the collar of her dress. Play chess with me, you dirty peasant, he growled. She looked at him coolly. All right. They sat down and he set up the chessboard. Pavokit frowned and looked at the dragon. Lita? The dragon smiled a bit. Pavokit Onyak, so this is where you've been. But you can expect I've been much better off since you left. Pavokit looked down. Why did you leave? Why do you think? We heard you were making a fool of yourself and they sent me to take care of it. When they play our game, we should negotiate the terms of our exchange. Panasamia Nocza said. It is simple, said the fairy with the green hair. You give us a deserter, and your friend gets his body back. I blinked. What's that? Sol's eyes suddenly came to life, and his face broke into a grin. Aha! I did it! He looked at his hands. Well, Zvotok! Lilia smiled. Did you think it would be that easy? Elio slapped him. Elio, that's my job, I thought. We're in Sinis. Speak Draconic. Such a boy raised by the most nationalist people in all of Vix, I said. Enough of this, said the fairy. Let us negotiate the terms. Manasamia Nocza nodded. No, it said in your letter that you will trade Pavokit for Sol. I think it would be reasonable to say that no harm must come to them, and you will return Sol's weapons to him. Give them the protections given to prisoners of war by the honor conventions, Asina suggested. Panasamia Nocza nodded. Yes, do you agree with this? The fairy shrugged. We will give his knife back. We will give him the knife back, and we have not and will not harm them. But I will not stand in the way of the Emperor nor of the deserter's parents. All right. Now, if anyone violates the terms of our agreement, then the deal is off. You can take all of us captive. You can even kill us. We can do the same to you. I suddenly realized that I should have given Panasamia Nocza a weapon. We will make the exchange once the chess game is done. A game that does not affect the terms of the deal at all. Singer? The fairy asked. Lucian waved dismissively. Yes, Liege, I do not care. We waited until the game finished. I tried to follow, but I didn't understand none of it. For some time, Lucian's expression broke into a grin, and he laughed. "Checkmate! I am the winner! That will teach you, dirty peasant!" Zina sighed and stood next to Luce, whose eyes were wide with what I guessed was a combination of surprise and fear. "Now that the game's over, give him back," I said. Lilia shoved Sol forward, and Fokit walked forward nervously as well. So I guessed a rope was tied around Sol's wrists. But right after the exchange was made, Auriel darted forward, put her knife at Panosiama Nocza's throat, and ripped off her shawl in one fluid motion. "Change of plans," she said casually.